From a highly secure network of top secret locations across North America, this is the Spurs Insider. Will they ever lose again edition? I am Mike Finger, joined as always by San Antonio Express News Spurs beat writers Tom Orsborn and Jeff McDonald. And I'm just going to start with the question asked in my title of the episode. Will they ever lose again, Tom? The San Antonio Spurs, the local Cagers, the second best team in the Western Conference and rising.
Well, I was a little skeptical about the winning streak. They played a lot of banged up teams. Thought it might be fool's gold, but they certainly passed the test in Detroit last night. So yeah, will they ever lose again? Will we be working into June? That's the question. I noticed some people writing that it was a potential NBA Finals preview. So, it's
if the Spurs and Pistons meet in the finals, which I will still go on record as saying is extremely unlikely.
Yeah,
but we're going to do a podcast episode, Tom, and this is just a tease. It's going to frustrate the listeners, but I want to tell the story of the Big Show. Of the T-shirt of the page A1 story way back in the last time the Spurs and the Pistons met in the finals. That's a legendary piece of Express News history. That's something to look forward to if it does happen, but it probably won't. And as we're being cynical and negative about things, it's time to welcome into the podcast Jeff McDonald.
I was just going to go the other way. I was about to ask you, did you say extremely unlikely? Like, I don't know about extremely unlikely.
That the Spurs and Pistons meet in the 2026 NBA Finals.
I guess it depends on how we define all these terms, but I wouldn't say extremely unlikely.
I would say less than 5%.
I don't know. I can't put a percent on everything, but I could see both those teams reaching the NBA Finals at this point.
Well,
I'm not saying it's probable or even, I'm not saying it's likely or probable,
right.
but extremely, that little adjective there threw me a little bit.
I think it's extremely unlikely. You're a big betting guy, Jeff, at the Moody Center last week in Austin.
I am not a big betting guy.
You were all over point spreads and asking pregame questions about Lindy Waters, his availability to assuage the FanDuel people. So I'd ask you I'm not a betting guy either. Betting is terrible. Do not bet on sports. It's awful. But what I mean by 5% is if it's that's 19 to 1. Would you bet $1 or I'm sorry, would you bet $19 to bet to win $1 that the no, would you bet $1 to win $19 that the Spurs and Pistons would meet in the NBA Finals?
Sure.
I'm not sure.
Sure.
Okay.
It's just $1.
I see. Anyway, the Spurs are playing great. They have proven the doubters wrong every episode of the Spurs Insider, it seems, this year. We almost always undershoot them. The Pistons are doing the same in regards to the expectations that people have had in Detroit. These are two teams that are ahead of schedule. They are taking advantage of an NBA where a degree of parity has set in across the league outside of Oklahoma City, who has undergone its share of struggles as well. So maybe the argument could be made that if not now, when would a team like the Pistons or the Spurs make a run to the finals? But it just seems extremely unlikely that they both will. And just because of what we've said over and over and over again, these teams, I think the Cade Cunningham Pistons have played in a grand total of 1 playoff series. The Victor Wembanyama San Antonio Spurs have played in 0 playoff series. Stephon Castle's never played in the playoff series. Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell have never played in playoff series. De'Aaron Fox has played in 1. we're playing the hits here. We've said this over and over and over again. But the theme of this is the Spurs keep proving us wrong week after week after week. We'll see if they can take it into April and May and June. But for now, why not appreciate what this team has done? They've won, Jeff's 9 games in a row. As Jeff pointed out, a lot of those games were against teams without winning records, without their best players. But that game in Detroit, it looked like it looked like a playoff team. It looked like an experienced playoff team. It was impressive.
What I was going to say about the winning streak going into Detroit, if we had done this podcast, before that game, is yes, they played some the streak was made up of wins against banged up teams and or teams that were just bad anyway. Like sub 500, every team they played in those 8 games was either missing like an all-star or more than one all-star, or they were sub 500, and some of them were both. So I get the skepticism with that winning streak, but the one good sign I saw in it is they were beating the crap out of those teams. They weren't just like, except for the Oklahoma City game where they kind of screwed around against the skeleton crew. I mean, they were up 40 in LA. I don't care who's on the other team. Like, if you're up 40, you're doing something right. And they were up 30 against, Phoenix and Sacramento. Like, I don't care who's playing for the other team in the NBA. If you're up 30 or 40 on them, you're playing good basketball. And so I thought that's why I didn't expect them to go to Detroit and win the game, but I'm not surprised they went in there and played well. And when you do that, you give yourself a chance to win the game. This 9-game winning streak, I don't know, it started way back against Orlando. Do you remember that game? They were coming back from Charlotte and couldn't get there. And
I remember you called that game unwinnable that afternoon.
Landed at the airport like 4.5 hours before tip-off, and they go out there and they gut it out and they beat the Magic by 9 points. And that started a 9-game winning streak, and that's the only win in that streak that's single digits. The rest of them are all double digits. So to me, that's a sign of a team that's playing really, 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 really well. Even if they had lost last night against Detroit, I would say this is a team that is playing really, really, really well right now.
There you go. I don't know what to do with all this positivity. It's off-brand.
Well, they didn't get Lindy Waters back. That was a negative. He didn't play.
How did you enjoy the 2 games at the Moody Center?
They're good. They're starting to become. I guess the novelty is worn off for us. I don't know that it's worn off for Austin fans. Like, they still pack the place and seem pretty excited about it. But we were talking about how, like, the first couple trips, you're taking 22-win teams in there, and like, the place is just rife with media. Like, it's just overrun by media people. I think the games last year, we had 2 ESPNers there at the games last year in Austin, and it just seems to have it's not the draw in that sense that it used to be, but I think it is a draw to the people of Austin, and I think it's fans in San Antonio will disagree with me, but I think it's a good thing. It's good to expand the brand, give those poor Austinites a chance to see the team live in their own backyard. Like, it's fine with me. I understand San Antonio fans kind of feel like that's our team. Stop horning in our thing, but it's fun.
I had a small the conversation about something that I wrote in the San Antonio Express News last week about the Austin games. There was a little bit of pushback. There was a little bit of agreement. But my point was, when these games started, there was this inherent angst among San Antonio Spurs fans, because even though the Spurs said and did all they could to refute this sentiment, there was this overarching sentiment that there was a threat, that the Spurs were playing in an arena that had not aged well, even though it was less than a quarter century old. It had not aged well. It had not done what it was supposed to do for the neighborhood around it. Everyone knew the Spurs were looking for a new arena. And by playing a couple of games in Austin per year in this burgeoning market, this booming tech area where that everyone says is going to grow and have pro sports beyond the MLS at some point, that the Spurs were kind of drawing a line in the sand, saying if we don't get an arena in San Antonio, the Spurs might move to Austin. I never took it that way, but a lot of Spurs fans took it that way, and for understandable reasons. Like I got the angst back then, and I got the sort of budding resentment that, oh, the Austin's going to try to take our team. Now, that never made a whole lot of sense because I don't think Austin ever wanted the team. The UT is there. That's a huge behemoth that's never going to lay down and let a pro team come in and start taking its fans away. Austin's not any more likely to vote for public funding for arena than San Antonio would have been. I was skeptical all along that the Spurs actually were going to move there, but I understood the angst. After the Bexar County voters approved Prop A and B last November, it paved the way for what looks like going to be a downtown arena in San Antonio. What I wrote in the paper last week was that there's no reason at all for San Antonio fans to have angst about games in Austin anymore. Like, Austin's not trying to take the team. I got a little pushback from that, saying we still don't like them playing up there. They're still our team. But the reason the Spurs keep doing that is something that CEO R.C. Buford told us on this not on this podcast, but told the Express News, those of us who wrote stories about this in the Express News way back when these games started, is that they see their market as spanning from Monterrey in Mexico all the way up to Austin in Central Texas, and that if you take that market from top to bottom, it's one of the most lucrative in the country, and they want to expand on all of it. And it makes financial sense to develop fans and business partners and all of that in Austin, and that playing a couple of games a year is a great way to do that. And I still think that applies. When the building opens in downtown San Antonio in 2030 or 2031 or whatever it is, I'm not sure they're still going to be playing in Austin, but I would not be surprised, Tom, if they continue to do it until then. And it works as part of the rodeo trip, I think. Those aren't home games in the sense that the teams had to take a bus to get there and spending nights in hotels, but I think it provides a bit of a break in that long rodeo road trip every year.
Yes. How about that win over Detroit?
You don't enjoy the going over the Austin thing again?
No, I don't.
It sounds like Tom's got something to say before we get out of here. So let's let him talk about the big win last night.
Gosh,
I see.
Yeah, Wemby. I mean, that was a heck of 21 points. Had a poor shooting night, but did so much, against such a rugged team. Did so much, rebounding, 6 blocks. You had Castle's defense against Cunningham. Vassell coming up big. I think that's the topic today.
Go ahead.
He's done now.
Yeah, I'm done.
About covered it.
How's the coffee in Detroit, Tom?
I'm sorry?
How is the coffee in Detroit?
Tim Hortons is outstanding. That's the preferred spot in Toronto, but it's trickled down here to Detroit as well. So
would you rather have Tim Hortons coffee or a barista brewed Americano?
No, I'm always going to go Tim Hortons. As you said, I emailed you a shot of that last night, the Tim Hortons cup, the iconic Tim Hortons red cup. And you said it's a working man's cup of coffee. Yeah. And that was a working man's win last night by the Spurs.
I will take you through my train of thought watching that game from start to finish. At the beginning with Victor, they started with that 11-0 run, but once both teams got into the game in the first quarter, it was like, oh, the Pistons are being physical Victor again, and this has kind of been a little bit of the kryptonite against them this year. That's the book on him. If you push him around a little bit, you can get him to kind of float or to kind of fade. And the Pistons were pushing him when he had the ball, when he didn't have the ball, knocking him over. And it seemed to work for about a quarter. And I was thinking, here we go again. Like, this is the thing he's going to have to figure out for the playoffs, is how to impose his will on a game when people are beating him up. Don't just go away. You can't just say, oh, they're being physical with me. I'm just going to go stand over here for a while. You have to figure out how, and then he did that. Like, at one point in the third quarter, he was still 3 of 12 and just dominating the game. Just dominating the best team in the league record-wise. And then, ended up with 21 points, which looks great on paper, but like the 17 rebounds and the 6 blocks. I mean, the defense throughout the game, but especially the second half, anchored by Victor. You mentioned Steph Castle. It was pretty much a sight to behold, and it was that was championship level stuff right there. The way they defended, wow. and then you have people will swoop in and say, yeah, well, I guess the Pistons aren't that good. Like they don't have enough shooting, and they don't have enough secondary creation. All that's probably true, but it hadn't been much of a problem for the Pistons all year until yesterday.
That's to go back to the extremely unlikely. That's part of it is for both of those teams who have never been through the playoffs before, because the Pistons are they play very differently than the Spurs do. Those are two different personalities on that team, two different ways, or two different personalities on two different teams, two different ways they go about it. But they both have issues in terms of not having been there before, not having figured out how to make adjustments game to game. And one question I had during the game last night, or something that stood out, and maybe this is utter nonsense, but Stephon Castle been playing great, has exceeded expectations by leaps and bounds so far, is going to be a key this year and beyond, just a star player. Like, there are still times when he puts his head down, goes to the rim. It depends on whether or not he gets a foul call or not. And I just those are the types of plays in the playoffs that I wonder are going to be more difficult, because Jeff and Tom, you both covered a lot of playoff series in a row. You don't get as many, or a lot of playoff series over the years.
I don't remember.
I wonder if those are the types of plays that they're going to have to adjust to, and realize that the game gets called differently. Like, Detroit didn't adjust well to what the Spurs were doing last night. There are going to be times when the Spurs have similar challenges, and
I think we might.
I'm not saying it's 5% that the Spurs make the finals. I'm not saying it's 5% that the Pistons make the finals. I'm saying that combined, that's extremely unlikely. It'd be fun though. It would be a good series.
I think we might just be splitting hairs over an adverb there. I mean, unlikely, sure. I think you name any two teams in the league, and I think it's extremely unlikely both teams get to the finals. Like, everybody's got flaws. Somebody's got to get there. If you want to figure out what the combination is of who comes from the East and who comes from the West, I think it's all a small percentage then, if you want to get both of them right, because it's just wide open for everybody.
You're probably right.
I don't see anybody that's just going to, like, if you want to talk me into Oklahoma City's still the champs. They've done it before. They're good enough, clearly. They're going to get everything together and be completely healthy going to the playoffs, and they're going to be the team that goes out of the West. I would buy that for sure. I'd still say they're the favorites, but they've proven to be invincible, the opposite of invincible. They've proven to be they can get got. So I just don't think there's anybody that is just a shoo-in on either side of the bracket. Somebody's got to do it.
No, I agree. Tom, you got 3 minutes. Tom's not going to be here all the way. You got 3 minutes to get in some knowledge before your Uber shows up.
Hey, it was a step. We didn't, like you said, Mike, earlier, when I went to LA for that quarterfinal cup game, didn't think they were going to win there. Then Oklahoma City and Vegas, didn't think they were going to win there. So, they're taking steps. They passed the test last night. So let's give them their due.
I'm giving them their due.
I know.
Spurs, hey Spur, the Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama, I know listens to the podcast. Victor,
Give me a
here's your
break.
due. Here's your due, Victor. You can. I'm giving it to you. You're good.
I mean,
you're good at basketball. I'm gonna make an admission. Victor Wembanyama's good at basketball. The Spurs are too. There you go.
It's not like
due.
it's not like this is a Lord of the Rings podcast or something. There's no way he listens to this.
That's a good point. There's whatever science fiction is out there, or just solving the mysteries of the world, just science. Period. He might be listening.
He's listening to
sure.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. If that guy has a podcast,
real quickly before you go, Tom, what do you think of Toronto and the New York games coming up the rest of this trip? Do they continue it? Do they keep going?
Yeah, Toronto. I think they play. Do they play the Thunder tonight?
Oh,
no,
not sure.
No. Yeah, but anyway, I think they'll keep it going. I think until you boys pick them up in New York, playing the Knicks, that'll be another test. Brooklyn's the only, they've got this 12-game stretch. A lot of good teams, a lot of top-seeded teams, a couple of playing teams. Brooklyn's the only soft one. So, yeah. I think
Toronto does play the Thunder tonight. Toronto will the Thunder will be in town when you get to Toronto. Hopefully, Tom, you make it through this East Coast winter weather, Northeast winter weather. I know you got to go through New York. Good luck with that. If you have to leave us during this podcast, Jeff and I will continue the nonsense.
Okay,
but travel safe, Tom.
All right, thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are going to lose again at some point. Like I think that's clear. I just don't know where. It'll be somewhere. I mean, it could be in Toronto. It could be in Brooklyn. It's hard to say. Like even the best teams slip up, but it's getting harder and harder. What am I trying to say? It's getting harder and harder to doubt them at this point. I mean, yes, they're going to slip up and lose some games, but all those games we thought they were going to lose earlier in the year. Oh, yeah, there's no way they're going to go to LA and beat the Lakers in the NBA Cup. Of course they beat the crap out of them. Like, and there's no way they're going to beat the Thunder in the NBA Cup semifinals. Sure they are. I mean, so it's just hard to see that there's a game they can't win or shouldn't be favored to win. But that said, they are going to lose to somebody. They're not going to close the there's my hot take. They're not going to close the season on a 34-game winning streak.
I think that sort of is and obviously no, they're not going to win 34 in a row, but what they're proving is that they can beat anybody, and they've beaten the best teams multiple times. Their record against the Thunder and the Pistons this year is 5-1, the best teams in the league.
Yeah,
it's just there's a difference between can beat anybody and will beat one
everybody
team in particular. Or will be just one team in particular, one good team in particular, 4 times in 7 games. That's the big.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
That's the big test, and that's a test that every team goes through. Can you win a series? And we won't know until it gets there. As Victor Wembanyama said, it's a useless thing to. What is it? A useless thing to worry about. A useless question to ponder. Whether or not their lack of playoff experience will affect them in the playoffs. Because why worry about it now? As Victor said the other night, he acknowledged there is no substitute for playoff experience. I think he knows it. The Spurs know it. But in the meantime, why not just keep beating the crap out of people, as Jeff McDonald says?
What happens is we've discussed this a million times. You get into a playoff series against a team that knows what it's doing, and it's like, everything goes up, the intensity goes up, the fouls are called differently, the physicality goes up, the focus goes up, and you don't know it till you're in it. And most teams that have not been in it before, you've gone 2 games into the series before you figure it out. Now you're down 0-2 and you lose the series. And that's probably how the Spurs season is going to end at some point in the playoffs, is getting to a series against a team that really knows what it's doing. And maybe the Spurs figure it out, but figure it out too late. And then that's stuff that goes into the computer for next season. And now maybe they're the team doing that to other teams.
Yeah. Yep. but nights like Monday night in Detroit kind of show you that they're more ready because that was playoff-esque. I mean that was a high profile, intense night, and the Spurs look like they'd been there before. So we'll see. One of the one I wanted to bring up one of the more noteworthy developments from those Austin games, which turned into a couple of blowouts. But for the first time, Victor Wembanyama confirmed something that we'd always suspected about a year ago, and his blood clot diagnosis. And remember in those games, Jeff, right before the All-Star break in 2025, Victor had looked tired, didn't he? Like just beat down. And we had talked even before we knew anything was wrong with him that, man, the season is catching up with him and he's hitting a wall. And even though his stat lines weren't terrible, he was just lumbering. And because of the way everything developed last year, the way it unfolded, we were never able to confirm that the way he looked was related to what ended up being diagnosed for him, which was deep vein thrombosis in his shoulder and a blood clot that kept him out for the rest of the season. Temporarily threatened a lot about his career and about the Spurs' future. Things ended up being okay, but he said in Austin that he had 5% blood flow through that artery, which, as he said, doesn't explain everything, but explained a lot. And I think more than anything, it just provided more reassurance that the reason he looked like he was hitting a wall last year was something that could be corrected, is not going to affect him the rest of his career. They've come up with a solution that should not affect his long-term health. And I just thought that was kind of worthwhile in terms of noting that, that he's going to be okay, and that there was a reason why he was hitting a wall last year and why he's not, to bring it forward, why he's not hitting a wall this year. Like it's not endurance stuff. There was a reason why he was worn out last year. I don't know. Did you find that interesting at all?
What struck me was, as everyone will recall, the last basketball he played last year before going on the shelf was the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
And he told us in Austin that was the worst he's ever felt on a basketball court.
Yeah.
Was the All-Star game. And that was, I guess, the last straw that said, we got to figure this out. We got to do something about it. And I do agree. He looked like he was hitting a wall, tired, season catching up with him during that stretch of February before the All-Star break last year. But I just looked at it, like the second to last regular season game he played for the Spurs last year when he was tired and
Charlotte.
Was Washington, 31 points, 31 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. Yeah. Even the Boston game, he had 17, 13 and 2 blocks. Earlier that month, it's 27 and 10, 24 and 12. You know, Charlotte was a 16, 11, but 5 blocks. Like, so even in that weakened state, he was dominating things. But yeah, that was the thing that really hit my ears was him talking about the All-Star game last year and how that was the worst he had ever felt playing basketball.
Yeah. And to spin it forward, I mean, he is peaking in a way, and it's been against less than stellar opponents through a lot of this winning streak, but the blocks are way up. I don't know if he's been more aggressive in blocking shots or if teams are just challenging him more, but he's blocking 5 shots a night these days. He's that opening flurry against the Kings in Austin on Saturday.
3 blocks a minute.
You talked about him dominating the early stretches against Detroit. Like it looked like the Kings were about to be shut out for 48 minutes. The way that game started in Austin. I mean, it's just he comes out ruthless.
I thought Victor was going to throw a no-hitter against the Kings.
It looked like it, and he said
the first 3 Kings possessions ended in Victor Wembanyama blocks.
It was incredible.
It was incredible.
And he said after that game, and both of those games in Austin were similar, so I might be confusing them, but his reaction was that's not exceptional. That should be the standard every night. That's what he wants to bring, and it's not that he is doing anything special at all against teams that are completely overmatched against him. That should be the baseline. That should be what fans expect when they walk in the door and watch a Victor Wembanyama game, which is just mind-blowing the way he dominates these games. And we're not even getting into his double windmill dunks and the way that, remember in the early stages of the Wemby era in San Antonio when we talked about the struggles in throwing lob passes to him and how it's more difficult than it seems and how it's going to take time. The lobs from Stephon Castle, from De'Aaron Fox, from fellow big men, like it seems like the lobs are becoming easier and easier. It's really impressive. And his first couple of years in the league, he has hit these lulls. We have not seen that lull in 2025, 2026 yet, and I'm not sure when it's coming. What do you think?
Here's something you hate talking about, but if the Spurs end up with the 1 seed in the West, which is not unthinkable, they're only 2 games behind the Thunder. And Victor Wembanyama has played 65 games. It's going to be hard for me not to vote for him, like not just put him on my MVP ballot, but put him atop my MVP ballot.
What's interesting there, and I'm not a big award guy, but the MVP this year might win. There's like 5 solid candidates. There might not be more than 1 or 2 or 3 that qualify of that group. Like where you're running low on candidates. Like Jokic has almost used up his games that he can miss. Yeah. Luka's almost used up the games he can miss. Victor only has he can miss 5 more, something like that. I think Cade Cunningham's safe. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can't miss.
He's hurt right now.
Weeks. Yep, right. And he's got some buffer, but those are basically the 5 big candidates. 3 of them might be out, and then you might have a 2-way race between the 2 that qualify. So yeah, I like Victor's, even though he hasn't gotten a ton of MVP buzz, it could get to a point where if he doesn't miss action the rest of the year, if he limits his missed games to 2 or 3, it might be between him and 2 other top candidates, and you could see a really interesting race there.
You know what? What I'm saying is, even if everybody's eligible, I would have trouble. I think I would vote for him if the Spurs end up 1 in the West.
You vote for him first?
First.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't be
even if everyone is
a terrible vote.
And if that happens and he wins and 3 guys are out, that would kind of suck, because you don't want there to be an asterisk on that. Oh, he just won because 3 guys were out. I think he might have won anyway. If all those things come to pass. I mean, it's all hypotheticals. I mean, a lot of it is, but I mean, the guy is dominating the league. And are we going to count defense as part of basketball? Because he's the best defensive player in the world. And that's half the game. And to do that and average 24 and do some of the things he does on offense. And if the Spurs are winning, and if they're ahead of the Thunder in the standings, ahead of the Pistons in the standings, it's hard to see the argument against.
I would agree with you.
There's a lot that has to fall into place between now and then, but I'm just saying.
And what this also does is sort of exposes how ridiculous the year-round MVP discourse is to talk about. Like people were having MVP debates in December before Christmas. Like who's ahead, Jokic or SGA or Luka? Like it comes down to what you're talking about. If the Spurs end up being the top seed, which isn't as unthinkable as it was a few weeks ago, how could he not be the leading candidate? And I don't want to turn this into the 97th MVP debate on NBA podcasts.
I feel like you're
this week.
I feel like you're subtweeting our guy Timmy Goodtimes here.
Timmy Goodtimes is the best. There's no, and this is not any sarcasm. Who is better? Who is a better guy than Timmy Goodtimes? Who does the ESPN MVP poll? It seems like every 2 weeks throughout the season, keeps everyone apprised of the MVP update. He's the best guy. Love Tim Bontemps.
He's aptly named in French.
Yeah, yes, but this isn't decided till the end, and Victor hasn't been in the top 3 of Timmy Goodtime's MVP updates the first few times he's done it. He's sneaking into the top 5 now. But if the Spurs are the top seed in the West, I think that he should be. I think you're right, Jeff. He should be the presumed front runner because he doesn't match the offensive stats, the points and assists and all that stuff of the Luka guys. But in terms of both sides of the floor impact, I'm not sure anybody comes close, especially if the Spurs are atop the standings. So that's something to look for.
I'm glad you said both sides of the floor and not both sides of the ball. That one drives me nuts a little bit in basketball.
I always think of, I don't want to, we're hitting the end here and Tom's gone, so we have to kind of veer off in strange directions. But covering the famed Bob Knight on the South Plains of Lubbock way back in the day, that was one of his pet peeves. He ripped into a guy at a press conference one time for saying both sides of the ball. And Bob Knight was not a pleasant person to be around a lot. But he knocked that nomenclature, that verbiage out of me for good. I didn't say it, but I'll never say it again because that's not something you say in basketball. So had tip to Bob Knight for
all right
that.
All right, he also well, never mind. We won't.
No, go for it. Why not?
He also basically called you a prostitute once, right?
Oh man, that was the same night, Jeff.
Oh,
that was the same. That was the same. This is a great Bob Knight story, and this is the Spurs Insider podcast. But I'll tell it because it's a really good story. That student reporter, what's the name of the student paper at Tech? Is it the El Matador?
That sounds right.
It might be. A student reporter asked Bob Knight about playing on both sides of the ball, and Bob Knight ripped into him. Said, "You don't know what you're talking about. That's not something we talk about in basketball, and you need to come more prepared and show more professionalism. But I would not expect any more from someone who is in your chosen field, meaning journalism. This guy's just a journalism student." And he says, in your chosen field, which is 2 steps up from prostitution. And then he stands up and he's going to storm out. And I said, "Coach, one more question." And he turns around and he says, "What?" And I said, "What's in between?" One of my all-time great moments. What's the step in between? And
between journalism and prostitution.
Between journalism and prostitution.
And it turns out the answer is podcasting.
That's exactly right. He did not give me the answer that day, but 20 some odd years later, we have answered it. The answer is podcasting. So that's good. No, that was a fun trip down memory lane. Don't say both sides of the ball. Don't say journalism is the same as prostitution because there's at least a step in between, according to Bob Knight. What do we think about the upcoming New York trip? That was a heck of a segue. But Tom is raced to cover the Toronto game on Wednesday night. After that, it's 2 games in New York against the Nets and Knicks, 1 against the Sixers, and then the rodeo trip is over. Can the winning streak last through the rest of this trip?
Sure it can. We discussed that earlier. Sure it can. Will it? I don't know. I'm looking forward to the game at Madison Square Garden because I was not at the one last year on Christmas Day, or last season on Christmas Day. I was not at the NBA Cup final, and both those were amazing games. I'm looking forward to kind of the atmosphere there with Wemby and a good Spurs team going in there. A team a game that ought to feel a little playoffy, I would think. Both those teams being pretty good. So just seeing that.
Another potential finals matchup, another unlikely finals matchup, but those are fun. I mean, the Knicks are up there. The Knicks, more than the Pistons, have been through the postseason battles before, know how to navigate the big stage. So that will be a fun one.
Well, and we're going to see our old friend, Jeremy Sohan.
We're going to see our friend Jeremy Sohan.
It's
been getting some minutes for the Knicks, not a lot of minutes.
It's been interesting, sort of. It's unscientific, but seeing the feedback on like Knicks Twitter, where they signed Jeremy Sohan and they're talking themselves into a 22-year-old former top 10 pick coming over, and then now they're at the wait a minute, he can't shoot or do anything on offense phase. Like they've already learned why he didn't fit with the Spurs. So I don't know. I hope it goes well for him there. That seems like a very high pressure situation to play basketball in New York. So I hope Jeremy has the can handle it.
Yeah. And then after we see Jeremy in New York, that might be the end of just the countless, how many minutes of this podcast have been dedicated over the past 4 years to a guy who, played NBA basketball. That's more than most of us have ever done, but that's kind of much ado about not a whole lot in the end. And it's that's the way a lot of careers work. There was hope, there wasn't. Now there's hope in San Antonio. Now that he's gone, not because he's gone, but now that he's gone, the Spurs are going to move on to bigger and better things. Maybe Jeremy will move on to bigger and better things with the Knicks. We look forward to that game. We look forward to all the games this week and the rest of the season. And until next time, take care of each other and keep it real.